The other planet in neutral dignity is Jupiter. In Taurus, Jupiter starts out in a naturally incompatible environment. Jupiter is the planet of philosophy and higher knowledge. And when in the materialistic and sensual environment of Taurus, he feels out of place, right? It's not the ideal environment for this spiritually minded planet, right? Jupiter strives for spiritual growth, while Taurus is more concerned about money and physical comforts. So we can easily see how Jupiter does not feel great in Taurus. Now Jupiter is also here in the 12th house, and that gives a tendency to give back to the community and use money for higher purposes. And so this shows that this person is a very generous person, right? He likes to give donations, particularly towards, the spiritual organization that he's part of. Now, because Jupiter is in a naturally hostile environment, he struggles with parting from his money, and he is naturally uncomfortable when dealing with money in general. Now, luckily, Jupiter's Lord Venus is in Aries and becomes a temporary friend of Jupiter. Venus is in the 11th house of community, and Jupiter is in the 12th house of charity. And so what happens, his charitable actions support his community and their projects, and in return he also benefits financially, right? As a teacher and mentor, he gets donations, but then he also gives back to the community as well. And then of course the community gives back to him. So the 12th house has to do with giving and the 11th house with receiving. And so as the money goes, it comes back. So overall, Jupiter ends up in neutral dignity. In Taurus, it makes him stressed when he has to deal with financial matters. But luckily here, Venus becomes a temporary friend. And so because he knows that if he manages the money well, that he can give more back to his community. And when the community is thriving, then he will also get more back. That is ultimately what makes it for him sort of an acceptable situation. Let's move on to Mars. Mars is in an enemy dignity. Mars is in Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn. We know that Mars is exalted in Capricorn, the other sign of Saturn. So why is Aquarius only a natural neutral sign of Mars? Well, Aquarius is a social sign and is focused on collective goals, whereas Mars is independent and impulsive. Now, Mars can still get a lot done in this collective, future-oriented sign, but he needs to tone down his independent nature and be a lot more cooperative and strategic. But it is a natural neutral environment for Mars, and Mars can function on an average level here in Aquarius. And the area that he is going to do so is the 9th house, which is that of philosophy, teaching, and elevating others. However, Mars's lord, Saturn, is over here in Leo and becomes a temporary enemy of Mars. And this means that Mars now is in an enemy dignity. And remember, the dignity tells us about how well a planet can function in an environment. And so this means for Mars that it starts to become dysfunctional, right? While Aquarius is a natural neutral environment for Mars, Mars's lord Saturn makes it more difficult for Mars to use his will and energy productively. Saturn, through the 3rd house, is going to restrict Mars's ability to be effective, and Saturn is going to cause a lot more challenges, obstacles, and delays here for Mars. Now, Saturn is also in Leo, and of course that gives low self-esteem and a lot of self-doubt, and that is also going to make it harder for Mars to pursue his goals here connected to the 9th house and Aquarius. And so overall, Mars is only in an enemy dignity and can't function properly anymore. Aquarius might be a natural, okay environment for Mars to pursue its goals related to 9,000 matters. But Saturn in Leo is going to obstruct Mars's ideas and endeavors. And so Mars is really going to struggle to do what he believes in is right. And he's going to struggle to materialize his ambitions. Finally, we come to Saturn, who is in great enemy dignity. Right? Saturn is in Leo, a natural enemy sign. Saturn is not comfortable there. Leo makes it really hard for Saturn to function normally. Right? Saturn and Leo, they have opposing goals and qualities. Saturn is humble, simple, and knows that hard work pays off over time, whereas Leo and the Sun expect immediate results and respect for achievements. And so Saturn feels really at odds with the expectations that are placed on him, to be someone special and to step up to the podium and inspire everyone with how great he is. Because he rather wants to stay low and, just get on with, whatever he's supposed to do. And so Saturn is here in the third house, and this means that he is going to struggle with finding his voice and expressing his ideas in a way that demands respect from others. The Sun is also a temporary enemy of Saturn and is here in the 10th house. And so whenever this person stands in front of the class or presents himself as a leader in his retreats, he doesn't get the validation for what he's doing. The Sun is in Pisces, and this shows that his soft and intuitive approach to teaching and being the leader somehow decreases his ability to impact the people and touch their hearts. And so Saturn is here in great enemy dignity, and the person really struggles with communicating his ideas and also with expressing himself with confidence. And this insecurity increases when he has to act as a leader and be the authority. Of course, the Sun in the 10th house is going to make him an authority, and in Pisces a spiritual authority. This person has been instrumental in opening various centers in his spiritual organization, but he never lasted longer than a few years as the president. Okay? Saturn here in the third house in Leo makes it difficult for him to become the authority that people want to follow and listen to. And so what happens when he feels that the people don't follow his instructions according to his expectations? Then he leaves and opens another center somewhere else. And so fast forward 20 some years, he hasn't been able to plant his roots somewhere and establish himself in one particular place. And so he prefers to just stay for a few days or sometimes a couple of weeks, and then he visits another place where he gives classes on philosophy and also participates in spiritual music, concerts. And so this Saturn here in Leo gives him a lot of problems, right? A lot of self-doubt, thinking that no one will accept his message no matter how hard he tries.